So we're going to go with the 4-5-1. Definitely one of the most popular formations now post-patch. A lot of people are using it because of how, I think, the structure of the formation, like the strength of it, how good it is defensively. I talked about this and I showed the video on Sunday actually, and I showed you, for example, how it defends in that 4-5-1, but also how when you transition to attack, it turns into that 4-3-3. And that's why I think a lot of people are using this formation. I wanted to show you the layout of that video that I made, but I wanted to go through it in detail, the different variations you can use. I think some people who don't really understand would just copy the code, but realistically need to adjust this for your playstyle. You might see a lot of pro players doing something like this, like box to box and like two playmakers like this. But for the average player, this is going to be way too attacking. So if you're watching this and you're wondering, oh, why is it not working for me? It's not just that, it's also the player choice and a few other things as well. Now, first of all, most important above everything, I would definitely recommend the counter build-up style. It's so important. I think people, when they see a professional player use a 4-5-1, they have to understand that this pro player is going to be very slow, very diligent. They're going to be very calm, and they're going to trigger a lot of players manually. When I mean triggering players, I mean a lot of L1 triggers. So they're going to press the L1 button, so those players are going to be making those runs. Now, not only do they L1 trigger, they're using a lot of player locks. So from a counter-attack perspective, you have to be very good with this formation. So let's talk about it structurally. That's why the counter-attack is so important. It doesn't mean you're going to be playing counter-attack. It just means players make runs in behind. That's all it means. Don't get this confused with you sitting back and playing counter-attack. It just means that players make runs in behind when you win the ball back in those transitions. Now, when you go over to the striker, we'll start from the striker first. I would say use an advanced forward. I think a poacher, in my opinion, is better, but I would probably say go towards an advanced forward, especially in a singular striker setup. Poach would only be good if you strongly play through balls a lot of the time and you're pinging through balls to your striker. But I would definitely not use something like a false 9, even though someone, like for example, Pina, she has a ++ or plus as a false 9. I wouldn't use her, even if that means I'm playing it out of her role. Attack for, I would always say, choose the role that you want first. If you get the ++, then good, but don't just change someone just to get their ++. Having a false 9 sitting deep is not going to help you in a 4-5-1. Then it comes to left mids and right mids. I think for every single person here, the key with this formation is putting them on inside forwards. I think the problem is when you put them towards winger, at that point, you might as well just use a 4-3-3. And you might be asking why. It's because with a 4-3-3, you get left wings and right wings. In my opinion, the AI attack is much better on those. And I feel like the idea behind this is you have that 3 in the middle and the left mid and right mid also tuck in to congest your opponent. So you don't want to push away from that. So in fact, I would only recommend going with inside forward here. Don't go with attack because they're not going to come back defensively. That's one of the key strengths of this formation. Then it comes to this central player here. Now, I explained to you how you could use the 4-1-4-1. We'll kind of go into that a bit later. But this player here, I would strongly recommend for almost 99% of people watching this video, putting this player in a deep line playmaker defend. You see a lot of pro players, what they'll do is they'll trigger this player forward with the L1 button and it'll bring them forward inside the box. You can do that, that's fine. But you have to understand when you defend, that middle player is not going to be there and you're going to have no safety net. So when you bring this player forward using it as a box-to-box or a playmaker, I know logically it sounds good because you've got that center mid going forward. Unless you're happy with defending with just 4 players at the back and you're happy to get countered, which I know most of you guys are not, I'd recommend deep line playmaker defend. Now for the 2 left center mids and right center mids, probably the most important players. If you have no idea what I'm talking about and you're like, no, just give me any tactic, I just need anything, I would go 1 box-to-box, 1 playmaker. That way you got a bit of a balance, okay? The problem with 2 playmakers, I feel like sometimes for most players, they're just a bit, both of them are just too advanced. And I feel like having one kind of slightly off behind, and in my opinion, I feel like the box-to-box, they enter the box. So when you get the ball, they enter the box a bit better. I would say try, this is one of the few roles where I would say try to get a ++ here. If you can't, it's not the end of the world if you use the L1 triggers. But if you're that kind of player where you're not doing L1 triggers and you're purely relying on AI, then you should lend and lead towards going with a ++. I would always say do a lot of this manually. Do not rely on the games to make runs for you. Always use some sort of creative run, directed run, L1 trigger, or player lock yourself. Don't just wait for the game to do it because it's inconsistent and they won't do it every single time. But I feel like when you have the ball, unless you've got to rotate the ball, this box to box, they make that last minute run inside the box, which is why I like it. So I would say either go with 1 box to box one on playmaker, or I would say go on 2 box to boxes. That would be probably the best appropriate balance. If you are really struggling on the defensive standpoint, you can consider putting one of them on a holding defend. At least they kind of sit not as deep as it's kind of like this, like it's very, very close. It's not like the same, but it's very, very close. I actually really like holding, and that's for those that struggle defensively. And let's say you get countered, or let's say, for example, in this case, you brought your right back going forward. So make sure you have that appropriate change. But as I mentioned, I would say 2 box to boxes or 1 on playmaker. Do not use both of them on playmaker unless you really know what you're doing, is what I would say. I know a lot of professional players are doing, but don't copy the pros just because pros are doing it. I think playmaker probably make you play worse unless you're like at least an elite division player, if you're asking me personally speaking. Left back and right back defend, and the goalkeeper defend. Now, where this formation really helps is defensive. Now, why post-patch is it used so much? Why is everyone using this formation? The question I get asked is because you defend that 4-5-1. I showed you the image before early on in the gameplay, but having that 4-5-1 means that you pack out the midfield and you have the left mid and right mid. It's very hard to come across and break a 5 back. The only thing that could probably beat it from a defensive standpoint would be the 4-1-4-1. And the sole reason for this is, and this is what I'd recommend for more of the defensive end, use this formation instead, because you have a CDM. It's closer to your back line. They can help you defend. So in my opinion, people are asking, should I use the 4-1-4-1 or should I use the 4-5-1? If you don't commit your CDM going forward and they just sit back the entire time, you're better off using a 4-1-4-1. Where can I see the 4-5-1 being a bit more useful? So I'm trying to press the ball, or I need to sit higher up the pitch and I want to be aggressive. If I want to be more defensive, I would prefer the 4-1-4-1. So do you understand now in the weekly tactical layout why I said the 4-1-4-1 is more of a defensive formation for me to close the game out? And although I don't really use the 4-5-1 that much, but if I was going to use it, it would be more the balanced formation, the one to start the game with, or to play when it's 1-0 or 2-1. But if I'm winning 2-3-0 and I'm trying to close the game out, I'm going to much prefer to go to a 4-1-4-1. So that is the key difference. The key difference is that CDM. Now, as I said to you, when you win the ball back, it's going to be slow. If you're thinking, get the ball, ping the ball forward for a through ball like a 4-2-1-3, this is not the formation for you. This is a very slow formation to play. So I would definitely recommend 4-5-1. If you really want to be a bit more defensive, I'd recommend using a 4-1-4-1. I'll say statistically speaking, it'd probably help you more with that CDM sitting deeper so you can run back and defend. But that's what I'd recommend for the 4-1-4-1. Now, in terms of counter, do not go towards short passing. Just use it on balanced. I would recommend if you want to replay really, really slow, you do a lot of L1 triggers, but I'd recommend counter. For the defensive approach, I would say the lowest I would go is 60. I think unless you want to go to the 4-1-4-1, that's one that I'll play. Could you use high with this? I think you can. I've tested this on high. I think high actually works better for trying to press the ball and that flat 4-5-1. But I think it's also very good defensively. So I think either way would work for you. But I think it's very important here that, as I said to you, you choose the right player. So if you have the player that's got a box-to-box, you want someone that's a bit more well-rounded. Someone that can kind of go forward, defend as well. A Mariona, even like a Patrick Guijarro or a De Jong or a Reinders would work perfectly here. And one of the more attacking centre mids, I've just got Guerrero here as an example, but you could be an attacking centre mid here would also work very well. Let's say if you had, let's say in theory, a Hullet style player, someone that can basically go forward and score. A Bon Mati would be a perfect example of someone that I'll put here. For the left mid and right mid, you would need people that have got pace. I'd probably say try to getting all the 3 players at least on a base tiki-taka. I think that's where the key with this formation is. And for the singular striker, although pros use Pina, I'd probably say try to get a bit more versatile striker that's got pace in behind. Because a lot of people are going to be playing this formation as counter-attack. A lot of pros, they recycle the ball and pass the ball around the box to find an opening. And that's where Pina really prospers, as opposed to a counter-attacking system, something just to bear in mind. And the defensive line, you just go with what you'd otherwise would in terms of pace. But I think that is pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, if you want to get better FC26, you can come to my Patreon series. And we've got loads of videos. Don't forget, if you don't get better after 1 month, we will refund your money. That is a nil guys guarantee. But of course, we have, if anyone's new here, by the way, click on this link. This will take you the list, the directory of all the videos to follow. We've got FC26 School, of course, the videos always getting updated. We're just waiting now for someone just to guarantee. But again, the way we taught you before, meta mechanics is probably the most watched series right now. Let's say you're in Division 4 right now and you're like, you know what, Neil, my base gameplay is good. I just want to push it to the next level, but I want to quickly get to the point. I don't want to waste time watching tutorials. I ain't got 20 hours. I understand. We've got the meta mechanics. So for just those, I just want to just learn about the meta mechanics and the most effective techniques available. And of course, we have other videos as well. We've got the FC26 gameplay tips and analysis. We've got a video coming very soon of Stingray, the pro player, that should be uploaded by today. But we also got a video on defending, post-patch, the biggest changes and what's the most important thing. And so let's do a tutorial as well. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time.